What you see in the view there is an old bedspread that is literally falling apart. I was using this as a blanket to keep, the dog getting up on the bed. I had this thrown on the bed so that the dog wouldn't ruin the quilts and stuff. And it's literally falling apart. It's about, I don't know, 50 years old. It might even have been one of the bedspreads I had when I was a kid. Um, so here it is, and I know you're wondering, what is this about? Well, this is about treadling. Um, and I appreciate everyone's patience with my videos this week as I go through this sewing adventure. Um, it's still very much true I can't pick up the machines. It's still very much true that I really should be using my 99 which is now a hand crank. And what that does, this is the White Family Rotary under that cover. What the 99 gives me is a machine that if I keep it in a bentwood case bottom on the table as a hand crank, it's a machine I can use all the time for anything. And yet, I've had this issue with one of my neighbors. She has this tiny little dog that she's trained to go after other people and their dogs. I'm sorry, but this woman is a little bit out of her mind, and she set her dog after us right after I had my surgery. And when I walk, I have to use a walker, and it became a whole incident. I thought it was just me, but I have since found out that she's done this to almost everybody in the neighborhood that has a dog. So anyway, what that did was keep me not walking as much as I was supposed to be, because Coco is older, and her little dog is part Chow, and Chows are very aggressive. And so we have this little monster that comes after Coco, trying to bite her and rip her apart and everything. I have no tolerance for this woman at this point. But, to make a long story short, so I haven't been taking Coco on the long walks that we're supposed to be going on, simply because of this dog. And I think it contributed in the past week or two to a physical reaction when I go to pick up the machines, which are really too heavy for me to be picking up. My legs do worse, my seizures do worse, everything is worse. So this morning, when I was on my little Sunday soapbox, and I was talking about this machine, which is the 1891 white VSIIb, this really is all I need to do, is make a lock stitch for quilts, face masks, and I've talked about a few other projects I have coming up. I wanted to do my curtain panels on a Model 20. I want to be using the 99. There are a lot of things I want to be doing, but this morning when I was treadling, my legs hurt, and all day now they've hurt. And yet that's what the surgeon told me to do, was whatever you do, do it until your legs hurt. So now my adventure is taking me back to a treadle. And the other thing that comes in here is the reason I bought the White Family Rotary was because Miller Fulks had told me that rotaries are more or less the quietest machine, and that was when Coco had a back problem, and then I've been using the 1588 by Singer in the other treadle, but this treadle is quieter. So now I'm getting back to health issues, which is kind of a big circle all this week, ending up in the same place. Treadling is more important for me right now than hand cranking or using a Model 20. Each of the two treadles I have can be pushed around the house, so that eliminates me having to pick up a machine. And right now, the white family Rotary is going to be going into this treadle. And I had to come up with something. You know, this quilt is almost done. The face masks only take like 15 minutes a piece. The curtain piecing, I have to do that as I have scrap fabrics. So I was like, okay, I have to treadle. If I'm not going to walk, I have to treadle 15 minutes a day. What am I going to make? Because the other quilt projects that I have, wall quilts aren't going to take me that long to quilt. I needed something that I could do all the time. So now we're back at the bedspread. If you have a rag like this or an old sheet, I have a quilt I made for Coco for the kitchen floor that says, it's not really a quilt. It's a fleece blanket with, I think, a sheet on the back of it. And I have block printed her image and her name and everything on it. I'm going to do the same with this old bedspread and probably her blanket. And first of all, I'm going to stitch these two pieces together. So that's going to give me, it's about 4 feet long, and it'll be almost 4 feet wide. I'm going to stitch these two pieces together on the long side. And then for 15 minutes a day, I'm going to go around, probably in a big square, and just treadle and put stitches in this rag fabric. And so for me, it's a health issue. For anyone else, this is still a really good idea because time and time again, I hear people say, well, I don't like treadling because I can't get that rhythm, or my feet tend to go backwards, or, you know, all those issues of you don't want to ruin a sewing project, and yet you need the practice to treadle. So if you get an old sheet or an old bedspread or an old blanket or something like that, and then you just put a pattern on it. Originally, I had been going to do this with, and I may still do it, I have muslin, and I was going to make muslin sheets and use the 500A and make them all embroidered pattern stitches on muslin sheets and make beautiful, those would be beautiful sheets. So I'm going to start that with an old bedspread and an old treadle, and I'm going to treadle 15 minutes a day. And unfortunately for the videos I had planned, I won't have a lot on the 99 or the Model 20 right now because this is kind of a health issue. And, you know, I have had a bad week, and a friend of mine said, what did the doctor tell you to do? You know, and the doctor told me to use my legs. So I'm not out of the woods yet with losing my right leg, and so I have to kind of stop. My mother used to have a phrase, you're dilly-dallying. I have to stop dilly-dallying around and just treadle. So think about it. It's good exercise. It's good for your legs. It's a good way to really get the feel of your treadle machine. One other note on the 6212C, which is under there. I'm keeping it. I'm probably going to end up fixing it. It's 37 years old. It doesn't owe anybody anything, whether it was used a lot before I bought it or not. I still like it as a machine. I think that the visual of how the controls are and everything, I think that actually helped me this week with getting through seizures. I think I did hold on to it. And I think that if you have an older machine like that you like, and they get old, and whether you work on it yourself or whether you invest in having someone else work on it, I think it's worth doing that. So right now the stitch selector just keeps falling out of whack. But I don't think it's the actual stitch selector. I think that one problem I had with the machine is that for some reason the thread falls out of the take-up arm, which then throws all the tension off. It would also then affect the bobbin tension and throw the stitch length off. I think the machine is maybe a little bit finicky. But it sewed, I made a 28-inch Barbie dress of homespun yarn. And I stitched it up the back seam. It's a knitted dress, a bulky yarn. I stitched it with this machine. And I checked my records, and I didn't have a stitch length problem before. The other thing is the zigzag, and I should really just take the silly cover off. The zigzag, I think what I did was hit a pin. And I think I hit a pin hard enough that is what threw the adjustment out on the width of the zigzag. So, you know, should that have happened? Maybe not. But a lot of the machines don't like pins. The brother hates pins. So, I'm going to keep it. It's going to get its tote bag back. And I used it tonight to finish that Gabriel t-shirt that my son had. And boy, I should have put that together. I mean, there's a G with wings. I think that I should have realized that was Gabriel at the beginning. But anyway, I used it tonight, and it was fine. So I'm going to tinker with it. And, you know, I think it's a positive if for now I use the White Family Rotary and I treadle. And when I say 15 minutes a day, it's that's slightly incorrect. It's 15 minutes at a time. And even though I have a lot of face masks I can make, they're stop and go, stop and go, stop and go. And what I need to be doing, what the surgeon has told me, is 15 minutes each time. Get all the blood flowing to your legs, just really like a little workout. And I have a bike I could be riding, but my the dog still doesn't want me on the bike. And, you know, there could be a reason for that. She just doesn't want me on the bike, even though, you know, it's secured in a trainer and everything, and I won't fall off the bike and the bike won't fall. She doesn't want me on the bike. So treadling, walking, riding a bike, and treadling are kind of my three options that I've been putting aside this week because I had freaked out that I couldn't pick up the machines. So using the White Family Rotary for a while in the treadle, pushing the treadle out of my way when I need to, eliminates picking things up. And a project like this, you know, it may seem like, well, that's not very exciting. No, it isn't. You're right, it's not. But it's going to be productive because let's say I fill this completely in with stitches. I then cut this into pieces and use it as rags or blankets for the dog, you know, anything. So, you know, I don't mind doing that because what I'm really doing is using my legs. But it's an idea for other people too. So, it has been like a month jammed into a week. And now hopefully I'm just going to be treadling. Now here's the White Family Rotary in the treadle. Now, this treadle, the treadle itself was one that my father had. And when we lost my father, all of his machines and treadles came here. And at one point I had 7 treadles in the living room. But I like this treadle because it's smaller, it's quiet, it has 2 drawers, I think they came in either 2 or 4 drawer. Now technically the other machine, the VS2B, is better suited for this treadle because of the year, and you know, the years match. This machine is 10 years newer than the other one. But at the same time, with the family rotary, I can use a zigzagger. I still don't have reverse, but I can use a zigzagger, and I have a ton of bobbins. It'll work. It's also quieter. Now, the reason I'm continuing this video, this is kind of Mickey mousing things. That's a phrase that my father and I used to use. When you Mickey Mouse something, Mickey had a clubhouse where magic could happen. And when you have to Mickey Mouse things, it means you have to change things to suit what you need. Now, for both, the treadle itself needs, I believe, a VS1, and we haven't been able to find one. So the VS2B was better suited than the family rotary. But for both the VS2B and the family rotary, what I did was take an old Singer top and make a cutout for the machine, so the machine sits on top of the treadle. There's felt on the bottom of the board so it doesn't scratch the actual treadle. And then with this one, I really had to Mickey Mouse it, and I've got L brackets under here holding the wood together so that it was really secure. This was one of the lids that had a lift up section. So yesterday, I put cotton batting in there and glued this tarp down. And now what I'm going to do is probably make a fabric cover for it or paint this. So it's never going to look like an original treadle. But the advantage of the quietness of the machine and the fact that I can use some more attachments than I can find for the VS2 makes it an advantage. Now the weight on the whites, the white VS2B weighs 18 pounds. And I'm really thinking that that's better suited, except there are going to be times when I want to use zigzag. So this one weighs 22 pounds, almost 23 without the motor. I do have a motor on here that I had purchased to use it on a table. But now without the motor, it's about 22.5 pounds. So a little bit heavier, but the same weight as the 6212 and my 9913 without the case or anything. So I think that's the weight I'm going to run into is 22 pounds. The advantage to this is that I can push it around. It's on a dolly and I can just push it around. So once I get this board covered, I have to carve one little piece out where one of the underside legs is sticking into the wood, but then it'll sit flat. And I mean, it's a wonderful machine. The family rotaries were as popular as Singers. You know, I can't really complain. And the fact that it's got a table extension, this 6-inch panel folds down, and then this also folds up or down. Gives me a sewing table with a machine that I don't think this one's going to break, but if it did break, I can find another one. And like I said, I have a full set of the hemmer attachments and the box of attachments, plus I found a zigzagger. So I don't think I can complain, and this one though is a little bit harder to treadle than the VS2B. Now I don't know if that's the weight or if it's the size of the hand wheel or the weight of the hand wheel. I don't know. But it'll be good for my legs, and I don't want people to feel obligated to try to completely restore a machine to original before you actually use it. So possibly if I ever see a VS1 that would fit this cabinet, maybe I would put it in it. Maybe at some point I would make another board that looks better or something. But in the meantime, as I said in a video yesterday, the whole purpose is to sew, is to use them, is to be productive. So this is quiet for the dog, good for me, for my legs, and a little bit newer than the VS2, so I have a few more attachments for it. White Family Rotary, 1901.